Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first webinar of NEST. We're very proud to start this series of webinars. We have been planning 12 webinars in NEST. Now we'll explain a little bit later what NEST is for a project. This is Marije Bosch. I'm Paul Beenen, and we are both researchers in Groningen on the Hanze University and on the RUG. And we can't see you during the webinar. You can put any questions you have in the chat, and we'll just talk for half an hour, and then there's time for 10 minutes of questions and answers. And of course, you can always contact us afterwards. And you can already see in the chat that we put our emails in there. And if you need more information, you can also follow us on the website. It's also there, and via LinkedIn. You can find us there. And also the information of the other webinars will be posted there. So NEST, what is NEST? NEST is a project which is built on many projects we have been doing with a lot of you actually in the last years. What we are working on is that we really want to empower ecosystems towards healthy living. And in the other projects, we found many similar challenges, and in NEST we would like to develop the knowledge in these challenges. What we found out is that we have 4 themes which we would like to work on, and one of them is the governance. So how can you work towards healthy living? We do a lot of nice things in healthy living, but what we are looking for is more structural system change towards healthy living. And our idea, and it's basically one of our principles, is that there is a transition, which is a very long-term change. Where many short cycle initiatives, projects can contribute to, but the idea is how can you then work towards that long-term system change. So that's one of the principles in our thinking. Another one is that you can't do that alone. You do that with different stakeholders. As we say, we do that with a quadruple or a quintuple helix. So we want to do that together with all the organizations, institutes in care and in welfare, well-being sector, but also with the local government, with the higher education, with other educations, with the and that's basically primary, with the citizens, and also we think that the environment, nature also needs a voice on the table. So what we are working for is how can we build up a healthy living, a society with a healthy living, and how can we work towards that with all these stakeholders together in a long term, in a certain area. And in NEST, we have 5 ecosystems, areas where we are really working towards that healthy living, which is in Eems Delta in the north of Groningen. It's in Rotterdam, it's in the south of the Netherlands, Helsinki in Finland, in Ghent in Belgium, and in Braganza in Portugal. And in these ecosystems, we would like to work towards 4 challenges. One is, how can we organize this? How can we finance it? Because a lot of this governance questions are orientated on the short term in project money. So how can you really think in more 20, 30 years perspective? That's one of the topics. Another topic is we would like to involve all the stakeholders, and especially the citizens are very important to include. But how can you really do that? How can you really engage them being a co-producer and not just a group of citizens? You ask something in a session with coffee and cake. And so that's one of the topics. We call that engaged community science. Another topic is that we learn a lot during this learning process, this long-term learning process. But how do you collect that knowledge? What kind of knowledge is there? It is so rich. And what we notice is that we learn a lot, but we are not so good in really collecting it and sharing it with each other. Which is a pity, because there are so many rich practices we can learn from. So this is also one of the topics. We call that knowledge creation. And the fourth topic is that, if you work towards a long-term change, then we are saying we don't know exactly how that looks like. How is healthy living, a society where healthy living is central? How does it look like in 20, 30 years? We don't know. And that means that we say that it's complex, and you can't formulate now exactly how it looks like. So what it ends up to is that it's a learning process, and this learning process we would like to be very explicit in, and we would like to monitor it and see how do these short cycle initiatives, activities, how do they contribute to that long term, and how can we make that as a learning process? And that's what NEST is all about. So we have 4 topics, and these 4 topics we will have the next 12 weeks. Every week a webinar, where every topic will be will have the opportunity to have 3 times a short webinar. And we are very happy to start with reflexive monitoring. Normally, evaluation and monitoring always comes in the end. But we feel that if it's a learning process, you really need to start with that learning process, and you need to start with how would you say that, to structure how you work together for a long time towards that great mission of developing a healthy living society. So Marije, can you explain what reflexive monitoring exactly is in the NEST context?
Yeah. So within the NEST context, I think we are focusing on reflexive monitoring because it can be seen as part of the innovation process. So the monitoring processes and the evaluation process really support the innovation processes. So during the whole process towards working to more healthy citizens, etc. So basically, we see it as a form of, you could say, utilization focused evaluation or developmental evaluation. Michael Quinn Patton has written a lot about this. So the evaluation should be useful in making decisions along the way. So you do a constant loop of actions and reflections, in order basically to guide the process and to determine how you can best continue. Because as you said, in complexity, it's very hard to predict what exactly will happen, where you will end up. So you need this learning process to basically guide you along the way. So that's why we're using reflexive monitoring.
It's very nice. So that's one function basically.
Yeah.
Another function we have been talking about is that it shows what you really do, right? So it's also kind of impact measurement.
Yeah,
Can you
definitely
explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as you said, so when you are working long-term on innovation, there's lots of actions that you can try, lots of short-term projects and activities that you would like to try out. And then what the evaluation will do is it's basically a combination of your normal project evaluation. So when you do a short-term project, you evaluate the results as per normal. And then basically it also shows the impact on the long term. So in that sense, it's more of a combination, I guess, of the classic type of evaluation where you just do your evaluation at the end of a project and you look at the results. But here we also look at how the results then contribute towards that long-term goal. So it's a combination of short and long term. And then in the long term, you also want to know, according to all the stakeholders, what the impact has been. So you can basically have sessions where you ask all the stakeholders what, according to their opinion, the impact has been. So it's a combination of both, I guess. So you get results and impact.
Nice. And we have been talking, and what we would like to do in the third webinar of reflexive monitoring, which is on the 28th of May, we would like to go a bit further, a bit deeper into that complement between the more traditional evaluation and monitoring with the more developmental part of monitoring. And what we are saying is it needs to be both, and you can mix it very well.
Yeah, basically, I think we see three big components, if you like. So there's the traditional evaluation of short cycle activities. And then there's the longer term learning process, the collective learning process towards healthier societies, where you really want to bring in all the stakeholders and work out together what works. How do we collaborate? Is there certain principles that we would like to adhere to or that we think are important? So there's the long-term learning process. And then as a third component or way of looking at it is that we also actively look for the things that were unplanned. So the things that just happen, the things that pop up. Maybe another COVID comes along and we have to rework our schedules again, or maybe another initiative is starting up that's doing similar things like you, and you might want to collaborate with it. So whereas in traditional evaluation, it's very common to basically decide where you want to go, then plan your way there, and then work towards that. In this type of evaluation, you really try and open the scope and try and see what unplanned things are happening. Because lots is and will be happening, and maybe those are the things that are really important to bring in the process as well. Okay. So it's basically the planned, the unplanned, and the learning process.
Well, sounds like quite a job. Can you explain how we make this really practical?
Yeah, that is something that we're really trying to work out in NEST as well, because as you can imagine, you can use lots of tools and many sessions to basically do this type of evaluation. So what we try and do is come up with, I guess you could say, like a minimum viable set of tools. So what will be the very minimal that you would need to do a full-scale evaluation? And so far, we've basically we've highlighted 5 components. So the first one is mission orientation. So where would you like to go? What's your mission? What's your ambitions? Your goals? And basically drawing the landscape of activities. Then there's the guiding principles. So they basically are the core values that you want to put central. So, for example, everything we do, we want to be doing in co-creation, something like that. So, how would you like to work? What do you think is really important? And then along the way, you can evaluate a guiding principle like that by asking ourselves, like, are we actually working in co-creation? And if so, is that leading to good results? Are we gaining or benefiting from that?
So they're really coming from the values, the meaning, what you have been writing in your mission statement.
Yeah.
You want to go somewhere, and then you think of what's really, really important there. We don't know how that looks like, but we do know what we feel is very, very important in values. So it helps you to...
They can help you to basically take decisions along the way. And decisions that are in line with your core values. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So that's the first 2. Then we have the timeline sessions. They are basically sessions in which you collect your key stakeholders, you put them in a room, and you ask them to reflect on, say, the last half year. What worked really well? What was positive? What was negative? Didn't work so well? Was there any unexpected things happening? Any key insights? And basically, what you do is you ask people to basically think about what their experiences, and they put it on sticky notes. You stick it on the wall, and then you have a discussion, a dialogue about it, and then you see that certain patterns will arise. And then what a session like that does is that it really helps to discover those patterns and the things that work really well in working together, for example. Because normally if you just, you keep going, you miss that. So you need a session with all the people involved to basically stand still, look back, and then have a dialogue about what really worked well and what didn't. And from that, you can then distract some maybe learning questions or working mechanisms or lessons learned. So it's a really informative session that can basically help you go further as well.
Can I add something to that? Because what I really love from the timeline evaluations I've seen is that normally people evaluate and they are on the table. Yeah. But now the different stakeholders with all the power distances, they are looking together. They're standing and they're looking together to the wall, and that works very empowering and almost democratizing in a sense. So the dialogue you mentioned, I think that it really comes out very well in these timeline sessions. And I think it's also one of the goals, right, in our way of working, that we really want to have all the stakeholders empowered to be co-producers in this innovation process.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've selected the tools in order for them to be in line with the underpinning principles of the evaluation. So in co-creation, collective type of evaluation, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, normally you see lots of energy in those sessions as well. People get really excited. Oh, look at what the things we've done. And so
and they like it. Huh?
They like it.
There's a lot of energy coming out of it. All right, thank you. So we have had now the mission statement with the activity landscape. And then we had the guiding principles. You mentioned the timeline sessions, and then the fourth.
And then from that, basically, we have the dynamic learning agenda. which is, like the word says, it's an agenda, and it's dynamic because learning questions may change all the time. Maybe you've answered some of those questions, they can come off the agenda, new questions may pop up. So it helps you to basically keep track of those. And also there's a few elements in there that may remember or may help you remember, oh, hang on, maybe there's some elements that we may want to look at. For example, how are we faring on our guiding principles? Do we need to evaluate those in a little bit? Or is our mission statement still right? So it's more of a dashboard, I guess you could say, where you can keep track of the questions and the results. So from there, it flows into result reports.
And is this then also the place that you really write down the actions, because you have done a timeline evaluation, so you know what is at stake. You've been evaluating, and then in that agenda you say, how can we formulate learning questions and attach concrete action to that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's meant to keep track of the learning questions, and as you say, it's also meant to then make it practicable, actionable, and put actions to the learning questions that you prioritize, so that people know who's doing what and when you will be looking at the results, etc. So yeah, it's a very practical tool in that sense. So it's both making the actions explicit, plus a reminder to have different types of reflections.
And that comes back in the next evaluation then. So that will be followed up by another timeline where you look at the actions and the initiatives and see what's happened and how they contribute to that long term.
Yeah.
Because if I understand well, there is a short-term agenda then in all the actions, and you also look in the dynamic learning agenda towards the long-term perspective.
So basically, when you have results from short-term initiatives, we also the agenda also asks about, okay, but that's very nice, but what is the contribution of those short-term actions towards the longer term? So in that sense, it also helps to decide, is this something that we should do more of, or is this something that we should stop? So it's again, the classic evaluation in the sense of, okay, we did an action or an initiative or an experiment, and what were the results of those, but also do they indeed contribute to that longer term goal?
Then based on that, you can prioritize and formulate another action.
Yeah.
Nice, very nice. All right, well, we have had 4 now, and the 5th.
The final one is that we have an element which you call a knowledge creation. And that's basically the lessons learned, the working mechanisms that we want to extract from the process, and that you would like to share within the own initiatives, but also, of course, with others who are doing similar things in their own context, but maybe at a slightly more abstract level, some of the lessons learned and the mechanisms apply in other settings too. So that's the 5th one that we call knowledge creation. It's basically the sharing of the learning.
Okay, so you solidify the knowledge you got, and then you also share it.
Yeah.
How do you share that? Is it...
So that's basically short narrative stories, case studies. So for example, that you have a short description about a particular context, and then the social innovation that you're doing there, and then your lessons learned and some sort of advice maybe regarding if you think that others could apply this too, or so it's using the stories and.
So it can be also very practical. You can just have a meeting together and tell the story what worked, what worked well, but also stories what didn't work. That would be also very interesting, right?
Yes.
Is that happening?
Don't try this.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just as useful to tell the stories about, okay, we thought this was going to be really useful or helpful or impactful, and really it wasn't. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, I know the instruments already, but I can imagine that people who are listening to us, that they think, well, 5 instruments, how do they interact together and how does it really work in practice? For today, we thought we give a short overview, but on the second webinar we got for reflexive monitoring, we will give an example, a very practical example, and then you can also see how the different instruments relate to each other, because they are all singing together and coming back all the time in that learning process throughout the years and the decennia.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
Certain rhythm to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking for the rhythm.
Yeah.
Thank you. My last question, because time is flying. Reflexive monitoring, as we are just starting it, we are testing it in practice. So it's a little bit in its infancy still. What are the challenges? What are your own learning questions for the implementation of this methodology?
Yeah. There's definitely some challenges. I think a first one is that this should not be yet another form of evaluation. It should not be on top of things. It should be really practical. It should be applied and sort of be seen as part of daily practice, preferably, so that it's just not another thing that you need to tick off, but that it's really, really useful in helping you go forward in your processes. So hence we are looking for that minimum set. What's the minimum that you can do, but still have the very useful and helpful results?
People will need to feel it's natural in their daily work, and it's not an add-on to an audit culture and more registration and more.
Because there's already a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then I guess the second one is in relation to, as we mentioned, we are looking for tools that can embrace the complexity, the different perspectives, etc. So they are often collective sessions. So that can be a bit of a challenge to bring all the people together, have them all in a room. So again, it's working out how often you need to do that and have everyone, or sometimes in between you can have smaller groups. So so it's really working on making it a complementary to the usual sort of audit culture monitoring, which is often happening already, and making it really practical and useful.
Yeah. I sometimes feel that the audit culture and registration is very much based in the systems world. And the way you are telling about reflexive monitoring, it's much more about the real world where people are working and want to improve what they are doing and want to work to, can I say, a better world?
Yeah. I think I think the experiences so far, so like it feels a little bit more meaningful because you have the dialogues, and it's much more in relation to that mission, that sort of ambition. So it alludes to, this is what I do it for, like, this type of, this is important. And so I think that's really positive about it.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, this is a short introduction in the reflexive monitoring, how we envision it in our NEST project. Well, not only in the NEST project, but also in other contexts at the moment. So what we have said is that the next one about reflexive monitoring, which is on the 28th of May, we will give an example and how do we really use this instrument in practice. We will invite someone from that context. And the last one of reflexive monitoring is then on the 25th of June. That seems far away, but time is running, especially when the weather is nice. And then we will dive deeper into the complementary complement between an audit culture, the traditional way of evaluating and monitoring, and the more developmental reflexive monitoring, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Well, we're going to the chat now and see if there are questions from our audience. And then I have a quick look and I don't see any questions. So if there's anyone who has a question, please don't hesitate and write your question in the app. Or no, I don't think that they can, but I'm not sure. Meanwhile, we have some time, and I would like to mention that the next webinar is already next week at the same time, so at 3:30 Central European Time on the 9th of April. And that topic will be the engaged community science, and it will be an example how citizen science was used in a situation, in a practical example in Rotterdam. And Rotterdam is fighting fungus in houses. So it's maybe a very random topic, but it's very nice to see how you can use citizen science for that, and how you can really engage citizens in co-producing solutions and scaling these solutions in Rotterdam. So we hope that you will be joining that webinar next week already. So that's interesting. And what we do then the week after, we will have the topic about the governance. That's the third topic, and the fourth topic will be knowledge creation, and then it's the 28th of May, and then we'll come back with reflexive monitoring.
Yeah.
So these 12 webinars will be done before the summer. And what is very nice is that this is nothing more than a teaser, I think. We are giving short introductions, we discuss examples, we look at some dilemmas, paradoxes in that. But we are in NEST also developing courses in this topic. So you are, if you think, well, this reflexive monitoring is something for me, then you know that in the fall, in the coming fall, we will be starting some courses, online courses about these topics as well. So there's a lot of opportunity within NEST to get our experience and learnings from the four big challenges in basically in social innovation and transition thinking in innovation ecosystems. I take a deep breath. And I'll look at the chat, and I see that there is no question. That can mean two things. One, we have been crystal clear. I like that option, and the other option is that there are so big questions that you think, well, I just need to talk with them, and then you are more than welcome to contact us. And then we'll have a discussion. But having said that, Sandra is writing a question, I think. So we'll give it some time. No. There are many questions. Good. Then I would like to finish it. Thank you, Sandra. I think this is exactly what I have been saying. So please contact us. Keep following the webinar and the dates of the webinars on LinkedIn. And I'm very happy to keep co-producing, developing our work together with you. Have a nice afternoon and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Marije,
You're welcome.
for all your wisdom.